Hey guys, Steve Simpson here with Central Florida Property Management. Hope you guys are doing well. Wanted to chat real quick about something that we see in other leases that we acquire, and that is having a clause where the tenant pays for the certain first dollar amount of maintenance requests. And I wanted to talk about why we don't do it and just kind of give my thoughts on it. So just to kind of, I guess, more specifically bring out what I'm talking about, a lot of leases have a clause that basically says that the first X amount of dollars in repair costs are paid by the tenant. So maybe it's 50 bucks, 100 bucks. And the idea behind this is to keep the tenant from putting in unreasonable maintenance requests. When we speak to owners about why they have that clause in their lease, usually it's about, oh, well, they want us to change the light bulbs, or they want us to change the air filter. And by putting this clause that says that they're responsible for the first 100 bucks of any service request, it keeps them from putting those in, which it probably does. But that said, things like that, changing light bulbs, air filters, fridge filters, can be handled in the lease, basically just saying, hey, the tenant's responsible for changing smoke detector batteries, air filters. Our lease says that basically any maintenance request that is caused by tenant neglect, negligence, just outright doing it, is a tenant responsibility, and the tenant should be charged for it. And if they don't pay for the repair in a certain amount of days, there's a penalty on top of it. So we kind of cover the idea of stopping a tenant from putting in these nitpicky requests that way. The reason I don't recommend having I don't know what you want to call it, but minimum amount the tenant pays for maintenance is because what it leads to happening is tenants not putting in maintenance requests, and that leads to small problems becoming big ones. And we've seen it a lot in properties we take over that have that clause. And so, like, a good example, best example is your kitchen sink is leaking and the tenant doesn't want to pay 50 bucks to get it repaired, so they don't put the maintenance request in. And what winds up happening is the kitchen cabinet the sink sits in gets destroyed because it just keeps leaking and leaking and leaking. Subfloor rots out. And depending on how bad it gets, you're talking about replacing a cabinet. If your kitchen's a certain amount of years old, you probably can't get that cabinet again. It basically turns a very small problem, which would have cost 50 bucks to you, into a very, very large problem. And you can see that through all kinds of stuff. Caulk in showers, just various things where a very small maintenance amount would have saved you a lot of money in the long run. And I think what it comes down to is just having the ability and the gusto to tell a tenant no. The tenant says, hey, my light bulb's out. You just say, hey, great, fix it, replace it. So we have taken over a lot of properties that have these clauses. I'm not saying all of them have this issue in terms of like deferred maintenance, but we have seen some where the amount of deferred maintenance was insane, where basically the tenant was just staying put because the owner wasn't raising rent, and as soon as the owner raised rent, they never put a maintenance request in for years, and there's just thousands and thousands of dollars of this deferred maintenance expense, which I would argue is due to the fact that they're not putting maintenance requests in because of this clause. And on top of that, every tenant we've ever talked to that has that clause complains about it. So not only are you having deferred maintenance expense, you're having upset tenants, which usually means they're not renewing. And in our experience, the only reason they do renew is because the rent doesn't go up. Kind of a lot there. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below or shoot us an email. And yeah, hope you guys are doing great. Thanks.